Hi, cutie pies. It is Lanickia, and I am coming to you with season 1, episode 2 of The Nevers on HBO Max or HBO. It's called Exposure, the episode. And this was a better episode for me. I'm sorry I'm coming to you with this video so late, but I had a busy week and I got so busy. But I'm going to try my best to stay on track. So that's why I want to go ahead and get this out before the new the new episode comes out. Anywho. So a lot was exposed in this episode, which I get why they call it exposure. So we start off by seeing this woman, these two women who are going to work. One is named Miss Cassidy, and we find out that, so she's going to work and everything, and we find out as she's working that she's actually touched. And, and so her boss is like trying to get them to stop. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm wearing these clip-ons instead of just putting some actual earrings on. I shouldn't have did that. But anyways, her boss is trying to get her to stop. I'm going to just take them off because they're just killing me. So anyways, her boss is trying to get her to stop because, you know, after the whole thing happened with at the opera, they are, you know, not trusting of the touch and everything. So anyways, one of her, I guess, really good friends, she's with her, but she's not touching, you know. So anyways, Miss Cassidy runs away. And so that's how we see that. Then we see Detective Mundy comes and he rips so the next scene is Detective Mundy coming and he rips the orphanage apart. And he's just looking for something, because they're looking for Mary. Because they know that Amelia had a fight with, what's her name? Melody. They know that Amelia had a fight with her, and so they're trying to find out where's Mary, where is Melody. Now he's more interested in Mary, but they can't say that. But as they're talking and everything, she's like, "You seem to be more interested in her," because he's asking her like, "What's Mary's turn?" and everything. So when he has the search warrant and he wants to get into there's a building where the workshop. But his warrant does not go into the workshop. And he's like, well, we should just get another one. At that time, Lavinia comes and she stops him. And she's like, oh, the judge, the commissioner was disappointed in the judge for overstepping his boundaries and everything. So that is that. So she stops the interrogation and everything. And they just wonder who set them up to be, like, who thinks they have something to do with it. Oh, and so while they're talking, Miss Lavinia tells Penance to come to the estate, like bring a few of the girls, like the better girls, to her place, so that because after everything that went down the night before, they want to reassure people that, you know, the touch are not, you know, bad people. Don't be afraid. They want to just put themselves out there so people can feel safe. You know how people are. I mean, you can just look at the world today and you can tell. But anyways, so they agree to do that and everything. So then we see Lord Matin and the men, and they speak on how to get the touched and women under control. Because they don't want these women uprising and actually having rights and feeling like they can change things and everything. They love the way society is right now, which has the men in control. So they do not want these women actually being independent and everything. So while he's doing that, right? So so while he's doing that, Hugo comes in, right? And so he tells Hugo, "You can't run your little Hugo pretty much has a brothel, I guess." And he's like, "You can't run your brothel or whatever." And Hugo was like, because of that whole little scene that happened at the opera, the brothel has it's doubled in membership because people want to find out. Y'all know how it is. People want to find out what's going on with the touch, and like it's like they don't want to, but they got to figure out, because you know how people are weird. People are just weird, and they want to know what's up with the touch and everything. So, you know how in society the men will be like, "Oh no, we would never be with those type of women," but then secretly they go and they have the main memberships at the brothel and all that kind of stuff. That's how pretty much it is. So he goes like, well, our membership doubled. So Lord Madden was kind of upset because he wants a society that follows rules. That the men are dignified, and he wants that kind of society. But he told Hugo, he was like, I used to think your dad went mad because your brother died, but it was probably because you lived and your brother died, and that's really why he went mad. Which hurt feelings. But anyways, they go on from that, and he threatens Hugo, telling him, I'm going to take you down and all of that kind of stuff. So moving right along, so Amelia and Penance, we see that she's trying out new gadgets and everything, because Penance does all the gadgets. So she has all these others, and while they're talking, she asks Amelia, like, why do you think Lavinia helps us so much? Like, what does she get out of this? And she was like, I mean, maybe she just wants to help people or whatever. Who knows? She's in a wheelchair, so maybe she just feels like she knows what it's like to be an outsider or whatever. So they leave it at that. So then we see Cassidy is trying to leave. Okay. Piss me off. So Cassidy is trying to leave, right? And then we see that her friend that we saw at the beginning of the episode that works with her or whatever. Now, mind you, at the beginning of the episode, the friend was like, oh my gosh, I wish I was touched and yada, 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 right? So then Cassidy is talking to the friend, and she's asking Cassidy, where will you go? And then Cassidy hears like a horn. She hears something in the background. I can't remember. She hears it in the background, and she's like, she looks at her friend, and the friend is like, she's back here. Then set the girl up to be captured. Like, she's stalling Cassidy so she can't get away. I'm just like, what's the saying with friends like these? But I'm like, girl, you were so excited to be, if it was me that was touched, and now you're setting your friend up to get caught. But Cassidy was able, and she managed to get away. So all was well and right there. But she didn't get to tell the girl where she was going. Okay. So the orphans arrive at Lavinia's, and she tells them, how she wants them to act, yada, yada, yada. And then she gives them blue pens, right? And with the blue pens, ribbons, not pens. She gives them blue ribbons, right? And so they're like, ooh, because she's like, we want them to be able to tell, who you guys are, whatever. And so they're like, okay, especially, I can't think of her name, but she's the older, well, not old, but she's the older lady that's with them. And she has a smart mouth. I like her. But anyway, she's just like, okay, because they're already considered touched and everything. And then you're going to like, okay, this is me. I'm the touch woman by wearing this blue pen, this blue ribbon. Why do I keep saying pen? Moving on from that. So she was really offended by, actually having to wear that. So then we go back to Amelia and we meet Desiree and her son. And Desiree is a prostitute. That's what she does. And she is on the run because she's like, listen, men just tell me things. They're in bed with me. They're enjoying, everything. She's their release. They get worked up with her, and they just start spilling everything out of the mouth. And now what has happened is they found out she was touched, and now they want to kill her. So she's on the run, and she went to the orphanage for protection. And so Amelia's like, oh, really? Oh, really? You're just here by coincidence? She's not believing it. She's like, you're just here by coincidence? I think not. So then Amelia just starts running off at the mouth. And then she stops, and she's like, oh, okay. You are touched, because she was like, when she got worked up, that's what all her thoughts and secrets that she had been holding in started flowing out. So Desiree is like, I don't need my own room and all that kind of stuff. I just need protection until this dies down and she can be safe. So then she tells her, I'm gonna let me take you somewhere. And so they go to the detective, and Amelia slaps him, and then she gets him all worked up and everything, and he starts spilling his secrets. And she finds out while he's spilling his secrets that he was engaged to Mary, and Mary left him at the office. Tomorrow I'm going to be in front of my bay. I have a bay window, and tomorrow I'm going to be in front of that so I can get more light. Because I'm going to try to watch it tonight if my baby will hit me. Sorry. So anyways, so she gets him to start talking and whatever. We find out he's in love with Mary, and that's really his reason. So the reason Desiree had to come with Amelia is because Amelia wanted to know that if stuff went down, that he would protect Mary, because Amelia knows there's something special with Mary in that voice. She can bring the touch to them. And she says, and I bet on that bulletin that you have, the order that he has, that it doesn't say about like protecting anyone. And he was like, no, all they want is Madeline. They don't care who gets hurt in the way of it. They just want her. So anyways, so now she knows she can trust him. It was funny because he pulled a gun on her when he realized that, you know, what Desiree had done to him. And she was like, don't make me take that from you. But then anyways, so then we see Mary is being held, and she's with these other people who are touched. Well, this other woman who wants to be touched, and like she's giving away body parts to try to be one of the touched. And what is her name? Bonfire Annie tells them like stop messing with her because they gave her some food, but it ended up not being food. Y'all, come on. So Bonfire Annie was like, stop messing with her or whatever. So then we go to. So then we see Augustus. Okay, so then Augustus is at. We go back to Lavinia's, who's, you know, has all the orphans entertaining, and then we see Augustus talks to Penance, and they walk away. Now Lavinia sees them walk away, so he walks away from her and everything, and he asked her, should he be wearing a ribbon, and she was like, should we? Like, you know, we're touched, but we're no different than you all. We just have this special gift, but that doesn't mean we're going to harm you, you know, or anything like that. Oh, society. But anything, just because we're different, doesn't mean we're going to harm you or we want to cause harm to you or anything like that. But anyways, so he starts talking to Penance, and they can talk. So she asks him, you know, what's his turn and everything. And he tells her that he's always been fascinated by birds, and that he used to dream that he was a crow. And then one day he was in church, and he was still in church. He was still there, but his mind was gone and he was flying. He had actually turned into a crow, but now his physical body was still in church though. But his mind, he had, you know, y'all get what I'm saying. He had turned into a crow in his mind, and he was physically as a crow as well, overlooking things and seeing things and all of that, yada, yada, yada. So they're having a good time. Like, they're having a good time because she can relate to him. And, you know, in his society, they look at him as being weird because he's socially awkward and everything. And here she is making, you know, cracking jokes, making him laugh, and they're enjoying each other's company. Moving on from that. So anyways, I wanted to say that because of something that's going to happen later on. Okay, so then we see, oh my gosh, y'all. So then we see Cassidy has made her way to this place. Now, I thought Cassidy was trying to go to the orphanage, but apparently there's this other place telling the touch to come to them, right? And did y'all notice the man who told Cassidy, are you one of them, had on like a purple lavender, like, armband, and the other man in the hallway, in the alleyway, had one on as well. Do y'all think that means something, or am I just reading too much into this? Because he looked, because the woman shooed him away, and he was there, like, he had to have heard her scream, like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it or whatever. But so Cassidy goes in because she's afraid, you know. She's a woman out there by herself. So when the man approaches her, the woman opens her door because she's made it to the address that she was looking for. The woman opens the door and tells the young man, leave her alone, you know, and tells her to come in. So Cassidy is like, oh my God, I found people like me. She gets in there, and it's one of those faceless people, so she screams. And I was like, well, this is not the orphanage Cassidy was supposed to be going to. So I don't know what's going to happen with her right now. So then we go on, and so Madeline is angry at Mary because Mary has this gift, and it's a beautiful gift. And what she's really angry about is Madeline was tortured when she was in the hospital. They were supposed to be helping her, but you know, back then, even now, like, they don't help. Not especially then, because people were ashamed to have people that had issues, like mental issues and problems and everything. So they threw him off in the hospital, and which was run most of the time by a bunch of men. And so here you have these young women unprotected with these men, and some of the men were not good, and unfortunately Madeline in this got with some of the men that were not good, so they were, they were abusing her, they were raping her, they were bad men to her. And so she's like, to get this gift, I had to go through hell. What did you have to do? And Mary has not had that type of life, So Madeline is just like, what the hell? Like, I had to go through torture to get this gift, and you're telling me you've experienced none of that? Like, why do you sing? Or whatever, because her singing is joyful and it's beautiful and it's pure and yada yada yada. And so she's like, and I can understand why like, she's crazy, but I can understand how she felt like that. Like, I was tortured, and here you just get this gift, like God. And she was like, God is mocking me to give you that, but I had to go through hell to get this, or whatever. And she was like, and then there's a demon who changes faces that follow me. Now, if you remember from the last episode, Amelia said this isn't her face when she was talking to the little beggar. Oh, shoot. Beggar king or whatever. Anyway, so I was like, oh, maybe she's talking about Amelia. And I was like, well, maybe Amelia changes bodies or something. Because we already know Amelia's turn is to see the future. To see something in the future that's going to happen. So I was like, well, maybe that's like I don't know. I still don't know. So, but we'll find out. So, then we see, okay, so then then we see that Dr. Hague is working on Cassidy. I think that's what his name was. He is working on Cassidy, and he's taking their gift. Like, I don't know how he goes into their brain, and I don't know how he's getting. I don't know how he's getting it or whatever, but he goes into their brain and he's looking for that spark, and he's taking it from them, and they tell him the boss is coming. So I'm like, oh, who is the boss? Who's the boss that's coming? And he was like, I'm right now, I'm in the middle of something. I'm actually having it on the background, and I see the little friend betraying Cassie. It ticks me off just watching that again. But so he's trying to get their gifts out of their head or whatever, wherever he finds it again. So then Amelia goes to, okay, so Amelia and the detective are working together, and they're getting to know each other more, and she's talking a bit about how she does what she does, and he tells her, oh, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm bouncing. I'll do much better on this. I'm just trying to get this out before the new episode comes out. So so that when I watch the new episode, I don't have to worry about doing this one and then doing that one, So then, okay, so anyways, then we find out that, so they've been working with each other trying to get, find information. And so she sees something. She sees herself fighting Amelia sees herself fighting Melanie. And so she leaves, and she tells Desiree, when the captain comes out in a few minutes, tell him where I'm going or whatever so he can come. So then she goes and they start fighting or whatever. And then she's winning, and they're going back and forth and everything. And then we see that Madeline, am I pronouncing her name right? I'm sorry. So then we see that she actually has Penance and Mary hang, like they're both, okay, so they're in this like warehouse thing where it has gears and it's grinding, and it has pipes and everything. And so you look up and you see that Penance is on one side, Mary is on the other side, and they're connected. And as they're being connected, if one goes, then they could hang because they have a noose around their neck and everything. So Madeline tells Amelia, you have to choose. She said, because, okay, so we find out that Amelia and Madeline know each other, and they were once Molly and Sarah. So we find out that Amelia actually left Madeline, or she did something that made Madeline get turned in. And, she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was going to be that bad for you or whatever. But it's too late at that point, because she's like, no, I don't want any apologies. I want you to be, you leave your friends. You're not someone anyone can trust. So now you're going to have to make a choice. Which one of these are going to live? And so then we see that instead of choosing, Amelia shoots herself, and Mary is like, "What?" And no, Madeline is like, "That's not supposed to be your choice." And then because she says, I'm not needed, you're not needed, but these two are needed. So she shoots herself, and then she shoots Mary, and then Mary is about to attack her with a knife, and Bonfire Annie throws the fire to stop Madeline from doing it. So I'm like, okay, is she good or bad now? I'm confused on who's good and who's bad. So then so she throws the fire to stop her from doing it. I'm sorry, let me back this up on Penance part. So while this was going, like while the detective and Amelia were talking, Penance was still there. And you know, I told you she had a good conversation with Augustus. Well, it turns out that Lavinia, when she and Augustus left out of the room that they were talking in, Lavinia was like, she got onto him for being in there with her, and it was telling him like, you can't associate with her. She's not gonna, you can't marry her, you can't date her, you can't do anything with her. And because he liked her. And so now he's just, so she made him, because she's like, society would talk and look at what would you do to her, the type of future you would give her, you know, because she would never fit in, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So Penance goes back to talk to Augustus later. This is after Lavinia has talked to him, and he dismisses her because he doesn't want to draw more attention to her and for society to look at her wrong. And plus, Lavinia just told him to do it, so he even though he really likes her, he does it. And so that when Penance leaves, because she's very upset, that's how Madeline, that's how they get Penance, because she was upset and she was leaving. Okay, so now go back to fast forwarding. So that's going on there. So while Amelia has shot herself, the detective gets there in time to get Mary and Penance down, so they can't, you know, go ahead and hang them anyways. He gets there in time, and then Amelia is on the ground, you know, pretty much bleeding out, and Penance says, go to Dr. Horatio, go get her there. So while that's going on, Augustus, who's very upset because he actually liked Penance, because she was someone that he could talk to and she understood that he was turned, and she was nice to him and he could laugh with her and he didn't feel awkward. Now he's all upset and he just went and got drunk. So he goes to Hugo's, and Hugo is running his little brothel, and he has touched people as the entertainers. So they're dancing and they're doing all the little foreplay and orgies and all that in there. And Hugo is like, I need you to invest or whatever. And Augustus is like, well, how much? And he says, I don't need money. I need your name, because your name will make this place more legitimate or whatever. So I don't know if Augustus is going to do this or not. He went in one of the rooms with two of the women, so because he was like, you got the touch, and I was like, well, maybe, you know, he'll be like, you can't do this because, you know, he's touched. But I mean, he can never tell anyone he's touched, and I don't know. So we're gonna see what happens with that storyline. So then we see Amelia has been saved. So she goes, and Dr. Horatio is, you know, healing her. And they're like, oh my God, we could have lost you. And she was like, no, I knew I missed a vital organ on purpose. And they were like, no, you didn't, sis. You hit yourself. Like, you were about to die. And so she was like, oh, you know, my bad. Or whatever. And Mary decides she wants to stay at the orphanage. And, you know, she and the detective are talking. And she just says she wants to be there because she feels comfortable. She feels safe. And that's just where she wants to be. And then okay, so then everything seems like, okay, it's ending okay, and okay. And then the doctor that's been taking the gifts and everything, he goes downstairs and he was like, okay, where's the boss or whatever? Okay. And y'all, the boss is Lavinia. I said, I knew something was wrong with her. Now, I didn't expect that. I didn't even expect that. Like, for her to be the one who's commissioning them to get the gifts of the people, I was shocked in that. I was like, what in the heck? But So I mean, she's clearly not good. I thought she was good because she ran the orphanage, but I did start to be like, give her the side eye after she was so against Augustus even talking to Penance. People are looking and all that when she's never really, she didn't seem like the type to care about that. But I don't know, y'all. So we'll see what happens. Ooh, this was way longer than I planned on it being. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the review recap. I love this episode. I think it's going to get better and better as it goes along. And I will see you tonight or tomorrow with the third episode review. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.